Well, that is an area that I believe the Attorney General is uniquely qualified to handle. I grew up in a small town, and in fact, my mom and dad had a small business in our home. My dad was a State Farm insurance agent. And so I'm very comfortable with how the culture is in a county or a state, and how local law enforcement may have conflicts of interest when it comes to investigating local elected officials at every level. And so the role of the Attorney General as the top law enforcement officer is to investigate allegations of abuse of power, allegations of abuse and misuse of public funds. There is a task force. It's called the FBI Public Corruption Task Force, and there are special agents in the Attorney General's office right now that are on that task force. This is an example of how federal and state law enforcement work together. And that is an area where the Attorney General can prosecute those cases that come out of that task force, just as the Department of Justice can. I believe that's one of the areas that hasn't been prosecuted, and it will be a priority for me. My background is in financial fraud. I have worked closely for many, many years with forensic accountants. There have been CPA, forensic accountant special agents in the criminal division of the Attorney General's office whose job it is to follow the money, and that's an area that's very important. Another area that I think is very important is the enforcement of the open meeting law. The open meeting law. That is an area where local school boards, city councils, regulatory boards, that is an area where local government can sometimes fall short. And right now, the Attorney General's office has what we call OMLET, which is the Open Meeting Law Enforcement Team. And it's a group of lawyers within the Attorney General's office that also represent do other work, and they come together and they, almost on a volunteer basis, take various complaints relating to open meeting laws. We need more consistent enforcement of the open meeting laws, and we also need better training for our public officials, and so that there's a consistent message about this is how you violate the open meeting laws, this is what you can't do, and then a consistent prosecution of that gives everybody a better understanding. That's an area where where public corruption and local governments can start to get into trouble when they are not having these decision-making meetings in a public forum as required by law.